Welcome to the Stepmom Wisdom Circle, where we reimagine the stories and roles of stepmothers. I'm your host, Claudia Chenevert. Today's guest is Georgina Warren, author of the inspiring book Tales of Virtuous Stepmothers. Georgina's collection turns the classic wicked stepmother stereotype on its head, celebrating stepmothers as heroes through 12 original fairy tales. We've all grown up hearing cautionary tales that vilify stepmothers as cruel, selfish, and uncaring. But Georgina's own experience with her entrepreneurial and supportive stepmother inspired her to craft these new narratives that reflect the reality. Stepmothers can be positive forces who nurture resilience and create strong family bonds. In our conversation today, Georgina shares how she aims to dismantle the stigma surrounding stepfamilies and provide more uplifting perspectives. But before we jump in, I'd like to share a little bit more about Georgina. Georgina Warren is a graduate of Christopher Newport University, where she majored in French and recently received her Master of Library and Information Science degree from the Catholic University of America. She lives in Washington, D.C., and currently works at the Library of Congress. Homeschooled until she was 15, she later attended the British School of Washington and the Field School, where she first cultivated her profound love of literary, visual, and performing arts, and pursued her vision to become a writer, artist, and actor. Tales of Virtuous Stepmothers is the first installment of what will eventually be a three-volume collection. Get ready to be enhanced as we dive into Georgina's inspirational tales and explore how shifting the storytelling lens can help all stepmothers feel empowered and seen. Let's welcome Georgina Warren. Welcome to the Stepmom Wisdom Circle, a place where we discuss, discover, and explore the complex world of being a stepmom. I'm your host, Claudia Chenevert, the Stepmom Coach, bringing you over 3 decades of stepmom experience and professional coaching wisdom. I'm the author of the Stepmom's Book of Boundaries, How and Where to Draw the Line for a Happier and Healthier Stepfamily, as well as the host, producer, and presenter of the annual Ultimate Stepfamily Summit. As a stepmom myself, I'm well versed in the unique joys and challenges this role brings. In this shared space, we'll tackle everything from setting healthy boundaries, managing conflict, to mastering conversation skills that foster the relationship you desire. Each episode is crafted to empower you on this journey, reminding you that you're not alone. Let's dive into the wisdom that comes with being a stepmom together. Welcome to the circle. So I am so excited to be talking with you, Georgina, about what you do and your book, which is very different from all the other books I've read and talked about. But before we jump in, Georgina, tell me a little bit, how did you get started in doing the work you're doing?
Thank you, Claudette. It's a pleasure to be here. I will tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I had been homeschooled when I was living with my mom and my sister. My dad was working as a lawyer in Washington, D.C., and then he and my stepmother got married, and my sister and I mostly saw them for weekends and holidays while we lived with our mother full-time. As a child, I'd always been interested in the creative arts and stories. I have always loved drawing and painting, and another memory that has been precious to me is of me with my dad reading our favorite stories together and voice acting the characters. And that has stayed with me throughout my entire life. As I've been through school and college, I recently got my master's degree of library science, and I now work at the Library of Congress full-time. And I had recently announced the publication of my first book, Tales of Virtuous Stepmothers.
Oh, that is so great. I mean, So you are immersed in books and literature and stories. Not only have you written one, you are working in an area where everybody writes stories or literature or books, and you're immersed in that. So that's great. Tell me, what inspired? I know you said your dad read to you stories, and I love that you would act out the voices. That must have been really precious and a lot of fun. What inspired you to write this particular book that you wrote?
Well, I mostly grew up enjoying many different kinds of stories, especially fantasy fiction. And at one point, I'd experienced a change in my life when the custody arrangement changed. And then I transitioned to living with my father and stepmother in Washington, D.C. And over time, we gradually grew into a unified and strong family unit. And the thought occurred to me when I looked back at the traditional stories, the ones that featured wicked stepmothers in them, that the stories I'd read didn't resonate with the life that I shared with my family. And I felt that we have seen so many adaptations of Cinderella and Snow White aiming to make those princess characters more empowered than they were in the traditional versions. And I thought to myself, we keep getting the same wicked stepmother in every version, but my stepmother is a very entrepreneurial and resourceful woman. She grew up as the eldest daughter of six in a military family, and she now works as a landscape architect. She has devoted her career towards developing more sustainable neighborhoods and gardens. And I wanted to share some of that vision with my future readers and to celebrate our relationship, which was what inspired me to create the book. My book contains 12 original fairy tales, and all of those fairy tales depict the stepmother as a more heroic figure, protecting her family from adversity.
I love, Georgina, that you're sharing this because, you have experienced being a stepchild, moving from being with your mom to moving with your dad and your stepmom. And we often hear, unfortunately, the negative aspect of being a stepmom, stepmoms not liking their stepkids, or the stepkids hating their stepmoms. I love that you are honoring your stepmother and you are seeing her for who she is, a resilient, strong, entrepreneurial person. And being an entrepreneurial stepmom or being a stepmom in the work environment is also very difficult because from conversations I've had with other working stepmoms, they were not acknowledged. They weren't seen as a quote unquote real mom. Therefore, they were diminished as saying, well, you don't need to worry about your stepkids. You're not the real mom. And so, I love that you're taking your personal experience and showcasing that there are other ways of being in the family, and many of them, in your case, I will say in your case, are positive. They're not all negative. So thank you for doing this and showcasing this.
And I would also like to point out that, like you said, that is a common refrain in every stepmother's life, that she's not the real parent because she wasn't present when the children were born. And so that is one aspect of stepmotherhood I would like to debunk. The idea that a woman can be married to her husband and not be considered a real parent is just mind-boggling. Because if you're sharing a life together with someone, you are sharing responsibilities and traditions, all of the ups and downs that marriage has to offer. And shouldn't that also entail some responsibility for looking after your partner's children, the ones that he has loved and raised since birth?
Yeah, and I think part of the reason is in the past, when a woman would step in to help raise her partner or her husband's children, there wasn't another woman in the picture. Therefore, there wasn't that sense of competition or loyalty binds as much as there is today. Mind you, if when you are secure in who you are, when you are secure in your identity and as an individual, that sense of competition doesn't really exist, but it's more of a sense of collaboration. And that's what I see happening a lot of times, where ex-wives or the mom will feel threatened by the presence of a stepmother in the terms of, well, you're taking away my child. Now, there are different circumstances in terms of how the relationship comes about. Sometimes it could be mental health issues. It could be the other parent isn't there. And so there are many, many ways of interacting. Still, the stepmom shouldn't be put under the bus for being there wanting to be a part of this family. And I love that you're sharing this.
It is true. The stepmother does get a lot of backlash. People feel sympathy for Cinderella and Snow White for being the oppressed child in the family, but it is the stepmother who is the true outcast. And like you said, the traditional stories, well, when the stepmother joined the family in those tales, the biological mother, was usually dead. So that conflict between the stepmother and the biological mother wasn't usually touched upon. Some of my stories aim to identify and address some possible ways of addressing and managing that conflict if there's no easy resolution. And sometimes that conflict is there even when the biological mother isn't around. Well, we already know this. Yeah. And so I think that it is very important to recognize the ways that every blended family is different. One approach for one family might not work for somebody else. And it's important to identify every family member's wants and needs to ensure that everyone is getting all the love and support that they need.
Excellent. Yes, I agree with that. Tell me, how did your stepmother change your life?
Well, there are many ways in which she had changed my life. She had stepped in at a time when I was just coming out of childhood. I was 15 when the three of us started living together. And so she came at the right time to help me to prepare for the teen years and then life as a recent graduate. She taught me so many things about being a professional woman, about self-sufficiency, and being my best advocate, identifying my needs, and also at the same time, having enough courage to jump in and explore new things and not to be afraid to ask for help when needed.
That's a great lesson to learn and a great lesson to impart on a teenage girl, because in today's world, I think we need to have more of those lessons present in our lives, especially for young women. I think that is very important. So, but I'm gonna ask you, as a young teenager, were you not rebellious and thinking like, I'm not going to take any information from you because I'm hearing someone going to say, yeah, but my stepdaughter doesn't want to hear anything I have to say. So I'd love to hear how you were as a teenager towards your stepmom.
I think I was feeling a bit of rebellion towards her in the early stages of our relationship. And there were several ways in which we managed to navigate those challenges. One was fostering a very supportive community so that she wasn't the only adult voice that I needed to rely on for guidance. We have many friends in our church and at school and work. One of the big lessons that she taught me was how to develop my network, because she knew there were some times when I didn't want to listen to her, so she hoped that I would have other trustworthy people I could rely on to get the help I needed when it was required. And over time, I felt a sense that allowed our relationship to thrive. And another thing is that we've had many years together of sharing family traditions, holidays, birthdays, but also responsibilities and chores. Like doing community service and daily responsibilities related to cleaning the house and cooking recipes. That's one
So,
aspect important to know about developing positive relationships in a blended family. Being able to share all those daily activities, not just the fun stuff, but feeling a sense of growing together.
yeah, I love that you shared the idea of, responsibility and chores and doing things together. So you created shared experiences from early on and grew to understand, like, hey, these are things we do normally. We do chores, we do family things. I love that your stepmom also encouraged a sense of community, a sense of developing a network. So she wasn't the only person, her and your dad weren't the only people that were part of your life in helping you to raise you, if you wish, right? I love the phrase, it takes a village to raise a child. So, and what I'm saying is what she did.
And that principle has been a very much an active part of our family lives into the present day. And one other thing she taught me is that it's possible to learn something useful from anyone, even people who have behaviors or opinions about things that you may not want to emulate.
Exactly. So she was helping you to see that we can learn lessons in any circumstances in life, whether it's a positive one or a negative one, but there's always something to learn from it, correct?
Yes, she never let any learning opportunities go to waste. And I think that is when one of my stepmother's great strengths.
Awesome. So, what is the most important life lesson for readers to take away from your book?
What I would like readers to take away from my book is that I know that they had to put up with all the stigma surrounding the title of stepmother for centuries, but we can choose the kind of books we read and what stories we create. So now I'm proud to offer you this new collection of stories to allow them to think about their role so that other women can think about their role of stepmother in a better way as a means to foster more supportive and loving relationships with the family, and also to provide some comfort to the children because they feel very confused and awkward if they only hear about the wicked stepmother in fairy tales and then they find out their family is getting one. It just leaves a sense of emotional dissonance when that happens. I know from experience. It can take time to grow negative preconceptions about people, but I'm offering something to help us move past all of the clinical aspects. Every conversation I've heard about blended families has often focused on the negatives and how to fix them. I've seen this in the body of literature. We've had a lot of self-help therapy books, which are very useful, but at the same time, I think blended families need to have some books they can enjoy that are more fun and not quite so clinical.
I agree. And one of the things I have been hearing a lot in the last several months, I've traveled quite a bit, and I've been hearing stories of indigenous people and of Native Americans and how they share stories. That stories is how we grow and identify ourselves. So the value of storytelling is so important. Whether you're sharing that story with a child or even sharing that story with yourself, what we tell ourselves and what we tell other people is storytelling. And if you focus on all the things that are not working, you're only going to look for things that are not working in your life. And so I love that we're talking about positive, more fun, loving stories, specifically about stepmoms, because you're right, we don't hear many stories about positive interaction with children. There are a few, but very few stories out there. So I'm loving that you have 12 stories to share. So tell me which, yes, so tell me which one is your favorite?
Well, I think that one of my favorite stories, without giving away too many spoilers, is The Bird of Many Voices. This one features a character that goes on a journey, and she ends up having a remarkable adventure, and she makes some mistakes. The main character in question is a thrush that can copy the songs of any birds, and so she ends up with a predatory bird, and much of the conflict involves her escaping from a bad relationship, but that's about as far as I can go. I would encourage them out for themselves.
Excellent. We will definitely look for that specific story. So, did you get any other inspiration for your characters from people you know?
I think that my stories feature a mixture of character archetypes that I've experienced from the stories I've enjoyed and a bit of real life inspiration from some people that I've met.
Excellent. All right. So I would love for you to share how can we put our hands on that book that you just shared that I hope everybody is going to be excited and look forward in reading. So where can we get your book, Georgina?
You can find Tales of Virtuous Stepmothers available in paperback and ebook on Amazon. And you can find my author page on Goodreads if you would like to follow for the latest book news. You can also find me on Instagram.
On Instagram. So perfect. So what we'll do is everybody make sure to look at our show notes. I'm going to put notes in there. I'll give you Georgina's link to her Goodread author page, as well as a link to her Instagram account. Excellent. So everybody, I hope you enjoy this. And here's the thing, I would love for you to share with Georgina which one is your favorite story and ask and tell her why it's your favorite story. I think that would be a great thing for people to do. And I know I will do that as well. So, any last words of wisdom you would like to share with us stepmoms who may be struggling in trying to find our place and to feel good about ourselves?
One thing I will say is that every blended family experiences different challenges, but the one thing they all have in common is that the stepmother is trying to find her place in the family and to achieve personal fulfillment and a sense of belonging with the family. And so I will tell you, there will be some days will be better than others, but it's okay to work through some of those challenges. And sometimes it helps to reach out to other people who can support you in the ways that you need. Nobody understands the stepmother better than another stepmother. Am I right?
Exactly. So true. And so I hope that everybody at least reads their 2-3 stories and lets Georgina know which one is their favorite. Actually, read all of the stories and just let Georgina know which one is your favorite. And let's have a conversation about positive role models as a stepmom so that children will see us as we're not all evil. Yes, we all have issues. We all have problems. Whether you're in a step family or not, we all struggle and deal with conflict. But it doesn't mean that the stepmom has to be seen as evil. So thank you for writing this book. And everybody, make sure to visit Georgina's page on Goodread and follow her on Instagram. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudette.
As we bring today's inspiring conversation with Georgina Warren to a close, we are reminded of the profound impact storytelling can have on shaping family narratives and fostering understanding. Georgina's Tales of Virtuous Stepmothers is more than just a collection of fairy tales. It's a trailblazing work that recasts the role of a stepmother from villainess to hero. So I encourage you all who are listening, whether you're part of a blended family or know someone who is, to explore Georgina's enchanting worlds for yourself. Pick up a copy of Tales of Virtuous Stepmothers, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook formats. Immerse yourself in these new narratives that celebrate stepmothers as forces of courage, resilience, and love. And be sure to follow Georgina's author journey on Goodreads and Instagram for the latest updates. If her stories resonate with you or inspire you to reconsider stepmother's roles, reach out and let Georgina know which tales touched your heart and why. Thank you again, Georgina, for being our guest today. And to all our listeners, remember, every family story is unique and deserves to be told with compassion, nuance, and respect. So keep turning those pages, keep sharing your own narratives, and keep creating new tales of love and understanding within your stepfamilies. Until next time, nurture those family bonds, celebrate the strength of stepmothers, and join us again as we continue exploring how uplifting narratives can change lives and perspectives. Let's embrace the power of storytelling together.